Welcome students of BA Part 3rd English Literature to this new session. I'm Dr. EKTA GOSWAMI, Associate Professor in English, and in this class, in this introductory class, we would be discussing the syllabus prescribed in paper 1st of English Literature. You are in part 3rd of this 3-year degree course, and while studying the syllabus in BA Part 1st and BA Part 2nd, you have come to know that it traces a journey. It traces a journey from the poetry of Shakespeare, and in BA Part 2nd, you have studied pre-romantic and romantic poets. In BA Part 3rd, you would be studying from the beginning of the Victorian age, means the poets of the beginning period of Victorian age to the modern times. So this chronological order in which you are studying poetry from first year to part 3rd, this journey is very interesting. And why it is interesting? Because it reflects the changing social and artistic values and literary values, and it represents and encompasses the various traditions which the poetry represents and which the poet expresses through their themes, through their language, and how it manifests the development of literature as well, and also the development of the times from the 16th century to the early 20th century. Paper 1st this year also is poetry and drama. You have poems and you have plays. Duration of the assessment of this paper would be of 3 hours, that is prescribed by the university. Maximum marks are 100 and the minimum passing marks are 36. If we discuss the pattern of assessment as it was in your earlier years, in your first year and second year, question number first would be reference to the context from unit A, B and C. Candidates will be required to explain 4 passages of reference to context out of 8 of 5 marks each with a total of 20 marks. So question number 1, it would be a compulsory question. Question number 2 will also be compulsory and student will be required to attempt 5 questions out of 10. This has to be answered in about 5 lines each, and each question will carry 4 marks to a total of 20 marks. The other 3 questions would be essay type questions of 20 marks each, and 1 from each section with internal choice. So the entire syllabus, it is divided into sections. The poems prescribed in section A are taken from Strings of Gold, part 3rd, edited by Jasbir Jain, published by Macmillan. This section begins up with the representative poets of the Victorian age. If we discuss the Victorian age, it was a long stretch of time from 1837 to 1901. This actually gives a very interesting study of the 2 poems, Tennyson's Ulysses and Robert Browning's famous poem, My Last Duchess. Both Tennyson and Browning, they are the representative Victorian poets, and they represent 2 different facts or facets of Victorian life. So while discussing these poems, while reading these poems, you would be introduced to the trends, to the language, to the tradition, and to the pattern of the writings of Victorian poets. Following these 2 poets are the representations of the beginning of modernism, and this is represented by Matthew Arnold's poem Dover Beach, G.M. Hopkins' poem The Sea and the Skylark, W.B. Yeats's poem A Prayer for My Daughter, and Eliot's poem Preludes. So while Hopkins created his own language, his own rhythm, and Eliot, his symbolism and his representation of the language through his poems makes up a very interesting, makes up a very knowledgeable study of this time. You would also be introduced to Yeats and the way he contributes to English poetry, because he's a great poet. So all these poets, whether it is Tennyson, whether it is Browning, whether it is Arnold, Hopkins, Yeats, or Eliot, the poem addresses to the emotions, to the intellect, and more importantly, a journey towards the modern times through language, through themes, and through subject matter. So concentrate reading these poems and you would experience a journey of literature from Romanticism to these modern times. While the poems in section A are from the English poets, the poems prescribed in section B introduces students to literatures of India. So the following poems from Text and Their Words, they are edited by Anna Kurian and this is published by Foundation Books 2005. So this is the book which is prescribed in your syllabus, Text and Their Words, and you would be having poems and short stories in the second paper from this book. The first translational poem prescribed in your syllabus is from the great Sanskrit poets Kalidas, Bhavbhuti and Bhartari. So is poetry always worthy when it is old? These are the short excerpts of translation introducing you to the wider variety and to the richness of Indian literature. The next is Syed Amanuddin's poem Don't Call Me Indo-Anglian. You have Partsarthi's poem from Homecoming and then Hiroshima, a translation of a gaze writing. So this section provides a reading of diverse text from various writers of India and it introduces students to the variety, to the richness of literature written in India. So you have Adiga's poem Do Something Brother, Eunice D'Souza's Women in Dutch Painting, Kurup's poem Earthen Pots, Jayaprabha's poem Stairs, Dayapava's O Great Poet and Sitakant Mahapatra's The Election. While reading these poems, you would be introduced to the various varieties of translational literature and to the richness of regional literature, the way they are treating with the themes, the way they are treating with the various subjects and how they are expressing it in the language. Section C includes plays prescribed for your syllabus and you have two very interesting plays this year. Girish Karnad's Tughlaq. It is a modern play by Indian English dramatist or playwright Girish Karnad, and Karnad describes the last 5 troublesome years of the reign of the very controversial yet very interesting historical figure Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So you would enjoy reading this play and how beautifully this play has been penned down by Girish Karnad, you would come to know while reading this play. The second play prescribed in your syllabus is Eugene O'Neill's famous play, The Hairy Ape. The Hairy Ape is a 1922 expressionist play and it is written by American playwright Eugene O'Neill. So enjoy reading this poetry and through the understanding of these texts, try to journey through the changing social the changing artistic, the changing literary values, and above all, the beautiful use of language, the beautiful use of words, which these poets have used and created this wonderful poetry prescribed in your syllabus. In the next class, we would be discussing the Victorian poets and the representative Victorian poets prescribed in your syllabus, Browning and Tennyson.